Today on Notsam Wrestling, the main event of the Royal Rumble has been set. AEW has their last pay-per-view of the year. SmackDown's going 3 hours. Raw is going to Netflix. And who, once and for all, is the best wrestler of 2024? This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. We do have to reflect on the fact that we have gotten through 2024, a year that would not stop, was relentless in all the best ways when it comes to professional wrestling. I mean, if you could paint the picture of what it looks like here at the end of December, at the beginning of January of this year, there's no way you would have been able to figure out how we got on the journey, and you could take that from multiple different directions. I can only imagine that 2025 is going to be that much more insane with all the leaps and bounds that everyone's making and going and putting us through. But it's all for the right reasons. It's all in a good way. We ended SmackDown, the last 2-hour SmackDown, and the last SmackDown of 2024 with the first angle that's going to take us towards the Royal Rumble. This is kind of, and when I realized this was an angle that's taking us towards the Royal Rumble, it was kind of amazing to me that as we're building up, there's so much going on, that as we're building up to Netflix Raw on January 6th, we still have 2 more shows before we get to February 2nd, right? Royal Rumble this year, or technically next year, Royal Rumble 2025 is February 1st. But in the month of January, if you want to count February 1st, we've got the Royal Rumble. A week before that, we've got Saturday night's main event on January 25th. And 3 weeks before that, on the 6th of January, we've got Netflix Raw that is being talked about on the internet with WrestleMania level expectations. And based on the 3-match card that we have, I would say that those expectations seem to be appropriate. But before we get to any of that, let's talk about the Royal Rumble build that began on SmackDown. So, of course, coming off of Saturday night's main event 2 weeks ago, we had the big angle with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. And Kevin Owens has been at the live events with the Winged Eagle Championship. Kevin Owens showed up at the Raw on Netflix kickoff press conference that they did at HQ with the Winged Eagle Championship, and he's been on social media, utilizing social media, proclaiming himself as the rightful holder of the WWE Championship and holding that Winged Eagle title. And really, when you think about it, as much as the Winged Eagle title was something that was looked at as, I hope Cody brings that back. That's one of the reasons why it was brought out for Saturday night's main event, because when Cody Rhodes won the Intercontinental Championship way back in the day, in an era long ago, the first thing he did was he brought back the classic design of the Intercontinental Championship on white leather, that old school kind of almost rectangular Intercontinental title belt that Mr. Perfect held and Shawn Michaels held and Bret Hart held, Razor Ramon held, that one. And because of that history, people were hoping that Cody would do that too with the Winged Eagle Championship from the same era. But realistically, just there's something about Kevin Owens being the one to hold that title. And maybe it's just because Kevin Owens is such a pro wrestler. That Kevin Owens, there's something about that Kevin Owens character that you could seamlessly feed in to any era of WWE. And that's a very difficult thing because wrestling has changed so much over the course of the decades. But when you really think about it, could Kevin Owens have flourished in the Attitude Era? Absolutely. Could Kevin Owens have flourished in the Ruthless Aggression Era? Absolutely. The Ruthless Aggression Era was a far more athletic style than what had come before that. But Kevin Owens is low-key crazy athletic. Could Kevin Owens have prospered in the Golden Era, in the Hulkamania era? Of course. Could you imagine, as good of a villain as Kevin Owens is, can you imagine Kevin Owens being one of the people that was stacked against Hulk Hogan at some point? What about the new generation? Hell yeah. He could have been a part of the new generation. Kevin Owens, let's just say it, Kevin Owens is timeless. He fits in anywhere, and so there is some sort of I don't know, a semblance of yeah, that makes sense when Kevin Owens is holding the Winged Eagle Championship. But Nick Aldis starts SmackDown and he goes, look, enough is enough. Kevin Owens is going to have to hand over the championship tonight, that Winged Eagle belt. And he puts over what the Winged Eagle belt is all about. That it was given to Cody for one night only to celebrate the legacy of the WWE Championship that Cody Rhodes is the rightful holder of. And for Kevin Owens to be running around with this as a prop, no, it can't happen. Kevin Owens is going to have to give the belt back or there will be consequences. Later in the show, Kevin, doing a promo from his Lambo, says, or maybe, I don't know what kind of car it was, says, yeah, I'll go in, but it has to be just me and you. No security, no nobody. Just me and you, Nick Aldis, and we'll have a conversation about this. So we get to that final segment, and as this is building and Nick Aldis has the opportunity to talk about the importance of the Winged Eagle Championship, I can't help but marvel at this idea that Saturday night's main event was the return of the old school vibe for one night only. That aesthetic was one of the things that made that show this year special. And maybe it'll come, you say one night only, maybe it'll be back in January and that'll just be the aesthetic for Saturday night's main event. And I'm all for it. Jesse Ventura coming back, great. Put Tess in a tux, put him up at that podium in the Okerlund position. I'm all for it. But the Winged Eagle title fit perfectly. When it was like Cody's coming out with the old school championship for one night only, nobody gave it a second thought. Everybody's like, yeah, this is cool. But nobody goes, there has to be more here. They go, yeah, that would make sense for this show. It matches the Navy turnbuckles, the referee in a bow tie, Jesse Ventura with boas on. Of course, Cody Rhodes is going to have that championship for tonight, and then he'll beat Kevin Owens, and then he'll go back to the current championship, and we'll move on, right? Wrong. Because now, that title being brought in for what seemed like rational reasons has now become such a bigger part in the story that's being told. And I just love when those pieces start to come together. That you could have had Cody, and there was a time when Cody probably would have just brought that title back and been like, hey, look, I have the Winged Eagle title this week. Isn't that cool? And then Kevin Owens would have taken it, and you realize that Cody Rhodes only brought it back. Like when you're going through the story and breaking down the logic, you go, I can't think of a logical reason that Cody would have brought that title back except for to have Kevin Owens steal it. Whereas now Kevin Owens stole it in this moment where there was logical reason for it to be back. So now you end up in a scenario where each of these two superstars have a title and it makes sense. You didn't have to like defy logic to get to a place where you can have a ladder match with two championships hung above the ring, where you can have a scenario where Kevin Owens is holding a title claiming to be the champion, even though Cody still gets to walk around with the WWE Championship around his waist. It's kind of brilliant. And then getting to the ladder match. I loved how we got to the ladder match. So we get to the ring, you know, and Kevin Owens and Nick Aldis are in there. And Kevin says, I'm not giving the Winged Eagle Championship back. First of all, Corey Graves on commentary, hilarious, when he asked Michael Cole why he kept calling it the Winged Eagle Championship. What kind of an eagle isn't winged? And I was like, it's actually a great point, Corey Graves. It is what the title's called, but other than the guys who wear green on Sunday, I've never known an eagle to not be winged. So anyway, so Nick Aldis and Kevin Owens are in the ring. Kevin goes, I'm not giving the title back because it's my bargaining chip. I need this title because I need to make sure that I can get a rematch where I'm not going to get robbed by the referee. I'm owed a rematch. I was robbed by the referee, and I want another shot at Cody's title where the referee can't rob me. And immediately, I don't immediately think ladder match, but I go, that wasn't an accident. And as the segment rolls on, now you're not in a point where, again, there was a time where you'd go, oh yeah, Kevin, I'm so mad at you. Let's have a ladder match. And you would just have a ladder match for the sake of a ladder match. That happened many, many times. There was literally a pay-per-view called TLC where you would just have a TLC match because it said so on the calendar. And it was fine. We had a lot of great ladder matches. But yeah, as a fan, you didn't have a lot to sink your teeth into. It was just cool. We get to see these two characters now in a ladder match. Kevin Owens saying a match where the referee can't rob me. Well, what kind of match can the referee not rob you? I guess you could say cage match that was only by escape. I guess. Even in a street, maybe a last man standing, but I feel like we recently saw a last man standing match. A ladder match is the match where you don't even need to have a referee in the ring. You don't need to have a referee in the building for it. Just climb up. Whoever gets the belt, they get to keep it, and the match is over. Perfect. So Nick Aldis threatens to fire Kevin Owens. I'm going to fire you if you don't give me that title back. And then Cody's music hits. And Cody gets a nice big pop. I can't remember where they were on Friday, but Cody gets a nice big pop out of that audience when they realize Cody's back. And we haven't known, right? We haven't known if Cody was going to be on the show or not because they could have been playing up the injury. Cody was doing a meet and greet earlier in the week, and he had a neck brace on for the meet and greet, which I love. Old school. I love it. Cody comes out, and, he's mad. He's mad, Cody. I love mad Cody. And he says that he doesn't want Kevin to hand the title over to Nick Aldis. Which, by the way, the fact that Cody went out there and explained to Nick Aldis what he wanted, and Nick Aldis just fell in line, it is very much to Kevin Owens' argument that Nick Aldis said this has to happen. Cody said, no, I don't need it to happen. And Nick Aldis said, okay, Cody, no problem. It's very much what Kevin Owens has complained about with Cody Rhodes being able to call his own shots. But he says, I don't want that to happen because Kevin Owens loves to turn himself into a martyr. And I don't need the martyr to have to hand over his title. And once again, Kevin Owens is a victim, and we don't want this. He goes, Kevin talks about Cody wanting to be the man and doing it for himself. And Cody says maybe there was a time where that was true, but now Cody does it for everyone who believed in him, for the fans, for his family, for the GOAT, Michael Cole. That's who he does it for. But he's getting all passion. Now he's impassioned Cody, but he's still angry Cody. And I love angry Cody. And he says that he is not. He's just, was I your friend before I was the champion? Oh, yeah. Am I your friend now? No. He says he wants a match with Kevin Owens where the referee is not going to stop him from doing what he is going to do to Kevin Owens. Because now, he pointed out the flaw in Kevin Owens' logic. He said Kevin's mad at Cody for teaming with the man who tried to take Kevin Owens' livelihood away from Kevin Owens. But at Saturday night's main event, Kevin Owens tried to take Cody Rhodes' livelihood away from Cody Rhodes with a package pile driver. So now Cody has all the ammunition in the world to want to end Kevin Owens. So what kind of match? Is a match where the referee can't rob Kevin Owens and where the referee can't stop Cody Rhodes from destroying this man. Cody, by request of Cody Rhodes, he tells Nick he wants a ladder match. And Nick Aldis makes it official. The graphic goes on Instagram at the Royal Rumble. It's going to be Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes in a ladder match. Not only do we have that Winged Eagle title, but we're going back to WrestleMania 10 a little bit more and putting two belts above the ring to have an old school ladder match. And when I tell you these guys are going to tear the house down at the Royal Rumble, the main event scene in the WWE, and we will talk about this, has never been more crowded. And there has never been more of a time where when an opportunity is given to somebody or earned by somebody, it is incumbent upon them to use it to its fullest extent. And that is what I believe we'll see from Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. Kevin Owens is a ladder match pro. You go back to Ring of Honor. You go back to Ladder Wars. You go back to his last Ring of Honor match at the Hammerstein Ballroom against El Generico. I think it was his last match, or maybe it was Generico's last match. I don't know. But you know the match I'm talking about. he hit a package pile driver off of a ladder onto a ladder that was between two ladders. Are we going to see that again? Do we see a package pile driver used in this ladder match? Do we see chicanery, or do we see a clean finish where the rivalry's kind of over and we're moving on to the next thing? How about this one? Where does Cody Rhodes end up roster-wise? Is Cody Rhodes is part of a lot of Netflix promotion. He's ripping through the Netflix logo. He's all over that promotion. Is Cody Rhodes going to end up on Raw? And if Cody Rhodes ends up on Raw, is there at least a possibility where what we thought was going to be, okay, well, we can just switch the champions, right? Gunther goes to SmackDown, Cody goes to Raw. If Cody's going to Raw, do we not switch champions? Does Kevin Owens actually win this ladder match? And does Kevin Owens head into WrestleMania season as the WWE champion, and Cody Rhodes does whatever Cody Rhodes is going to do? We're going to talk about, WrestleMania main event potentials in a moment, but there's a lot here, okay? Nick Aldis, like he's a hostage, announces this match is going to happen. Kevin shoves Nick Aldis into Cody Rhodes, makes you wonder if Nick Aldis is going to get physical at some point in 2025, and then attacks Cody Rhodes, and he powders. I hope, by the way, that you guys, it was a great segment. I loved this segment. I loved that how raw Cody was being, that he was using what happened on Saturday night's main event to bring out this other side in him. I hope that we remember what we talked about months ago here on Notsam Wrestling. There was a clip taken out of context where I was categorizing some of the early rivalries of Cody Rhodes' title reign and how they were similar in the sense that Cody came into these title matches with respect for his opponent. But the point of that soliloquy was that the Kevin Owens thing was different. That Cody Rhodes entering into this match with Kevin Owens from a respectful place as two friends, that this was the beginning of a different kind of story, the type of story that we haven't seen from Cody Rhodes as champion yet. I hope we remember me telling you this months ago, because this is how we got here. I was right about that. What I was not right about was that the Kevin Owens rivalry was just an appetizer for a Cody Rhodes Randy Orton rivalry. Will we see a Cody Rhodes Randy Orton rivalry in the future? There's no doubt in my mind. I believe that we will. However, this is not the appetizer to that. Those are two main courses. Those are two entrees. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens has this beautiful life into and of itself, as will Cody and Randy at some point. But right now, Cody and Kevin is not only as good a rivalry as Cody has had since he won the title, it's as good a championship rivalry as we've probably had this year, minus the bloodline stuff at WrestleMania. It's amazing what they've been able to do and how they've been able to take us. Look, Cody has had multiple situations where he's had these trio matches, right? And when I say trio matches, I don't mean a six-man tag. I mean sets of three, meaning he first comes back to WWE. He has the three matches with Seth Rollins. He loses to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39. He has the three matches with Brock Lesnar. At a point, you going back to the Winged Eagle title and its presence. How do we make it logical? How do we make it so that having three matches with somebody makes sense? It's not just what we do with Cody because he's really good. And how do we do it so it makes sense? We tell a story, right? Where not only does it make sense that there would be another match to follow the match that we've already had, but that's what the fans want. That coming off of Saturday night's main event, you end up wanting more Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, right? They coming off of their first match where the story is that Kevin Owens didn't do that ruthless thing that Kevin Owens could have done to win. You go, I wonder if Kevin Owens is done with that or if we're going to see it again. And then at Bad Blood, when he attacks Cody Rhodes, we're going, okay, we haven't forgotten about what happened before. And then even though we veer over here to Kevin and Randy, we're right back to Saturday night's main event, Cody and Kevin, and then to the Royal Rumble. Interesting that it's taking place at the Royal Rumble and not Raw on Netflix, I found. And also interesting that this is 2021, 2023, and 2025 that Kevin Owens has been in the world title match at the Royal Rumble. 2021 was still the pandemic era, right? Yeah, still, because it was January of 2021, still the pandemic era with Roman Reigns. 2023 with Roman Reigns was that amazing angle to close the show when Sami Zayn turns on Roman Reigns. And then 2025 will be the ladder match with Cody Rhodes, another amazing story going into this. Now, I do, and I've talked about this before, but Cody Rhodes comes out angry. Cody Rhodes comes out aggressive. And immediately, I hear the screams. It's starting. Cody's Homelander arc is finally starting. We're getting Cody Rhodes as a villain. No, we're not. Let Cody Rhodes be the hero that we all need. Maybe not the one that we deserve, the one that we need. Cody Rhodes is a good guy. They cheer when Cody comes out. When that opening riff came on, even on SmackDown, they went nuts for him. We have an old school babyface that is working, that people are cheering for. They're buying his t-shirt, they're buying his toys, they're buying his jacket, they're buying his weight belt. Whatever he scribbles his name on, they're buying. We're buying. I'm buying. Let it continue. Just enjoy seeing a good guy, Cody Rhodes, versus a bad guy, Kevin Owens. It's amazing that we can have this, that we can still have real storytelling with depth and with things happening all over the place and logic, and still cheer the good guy and boo the bad guy because it makes sense. We're lucky to have that. There's no reason to get rid of that. Cody Rhodes is a good guy. He's a human being. This character has human emotions. That's what makes him a relevant hero in the modern age. That he's not just this one-dimensional thing where, okay, we know who Cody Rhodes is and we're just going to wheel him out every single week. No, that's not the way it works. Cody Rhodes is a multi-dimensional character. And so when you package pile drive him and try to end him, he's going to get really upset about that. Number one, because he wouldn't be able to defend the title anymore. Number two, because his family would be really worried about him. Number three, Michael Cole is unhappy. And those are the things that motivate Cody Rhodes. So just because we see a little bit of emotional depth in this guy does not mean the Homelander arc has begun. Just enjoy the ride. Enjoy it while we've got it. Who knows when we're going to get another pure good guy like Cody Rhodes again. Let's just enjoy this one, okay? We should talk about the rumors and stuff. You know, it's very strange. This main event is announced this week, but 2 days before the announcement, WWE carelessly leaked the whole lineup for the Royal Rumble and the results. It was just in a Word document that for some reason had a copyright WWE on the bottom of the interoffice Word document memo that had all the results for the Royal Rumble, and already it doesn't match up. Look, if you're online, and this happens every Royal Rumble, this happens for WrestleMania, probably happens for Money in the Bank, when you see these documents go around and say, oh, they leaked what's going to happen, they're never true. Never. Not true. It's not a true thing. So this idea that anybody could see them, after all the times that they've been false, that anybody could see them and still give it even an ounce of credibility, you should not only look at that document and say, clearly, this is just a thing that somebody made up, but you should look at the account that posted it and go, I'm going to assume that most of what this account posts is completely made up and there is no sort of delineation between truth and fiction. It's just whatever gets clicks, this account is going to post. So maybe maybe I shouldn't pay any attention to what this account posts anymore. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. It's just how I would live my life. Yeah, because on this leaked thing, Kevin Owens was like the number 2 entrant in the Rumble. This ladder match, I mean, Cody wasn't even defending his title on the match rundown. So it's stupid. It's really, really stupid. And shame on anybody who saw it and believed it. But I will say that the more I think about WrestleMania right now, the more nuts it appears. Every week we've got new rumors about WrestleMania. You know, will The Rock be at WrestleMania? Will he not? Will he wrestle at WrestleMania? Will he not? What's John Cena going to do? Is he going to have a match at WrestleMania? Is he going to have the match at WrestleMania? Is this going to be like a scenario where, like at 39, he wrestled Austin Theory in the opening match of, what was it, night 2, I want to say? Or is it a scenario where he's going to main event WrestleMania? Because when you look at the potential main events for this year's WrestleMania, I mean, we don't know who's going to be on Raw, who's going to be on SmackDown. We don't really know who's going to be the champions going into WrestleMania yet. There's still plenty of time and opportunity for those titles to switch around. People are saying, like, based on social media numbers alone, that clearly CM Punk versus Roman Reigns is a possibility. But when you go back to January and go back to the confrontation before the Royal Rumble this year, before the 2024 Royal Rumble, on Monday Night Raw, there was a face-to-face with Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. At this point, it was a year ago. CM Punk makes the point that his dad was an electrician. His dad was a working class guy. He didn't come from anything. He didn't have any relatives in the business. He had to make it on his own. And he says, I guess you could say, I'm the real American dream. Or no. He says, I'm more the American dream than you are. And then Cody goes, okay. And then he brings up the pipe bomb. Remember the pipe bomb? And he talks about how everything that CM Punk said in the pipe bomb, Cody Rhodes literally did. And he looks at Punk in the face and he goes, I guess that makes me more CM Punk than you are. And there was just this magic and this tension between CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. And I feel like with the Bloodline stuff, with the Rollins and Punk stuff, with the Drew and Punk stuff, people have forgotten how magical that moment was between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And we will get back there at some point. And I think it's just as much a potential WrestleMania main event as anything else is, quite frankly. Because when you look at who could main event WrestleMania, right now, there's a strong emphasis on the fact that CM Punk wants to main event WrestleMania. A year ago, before he got injured, CM Punk said he wanted to win the Royal Rumble because he had to main event WrestleMania. We are drawing back to the story of why he left WWE in the first place. And there are a million reasons. But he was very clear in interviews. There's even an interview that he did with me before WrestleMania 29 in New York. His last WrestleMania that he's competed in, still, when he was wrestling The Undertaker. And how while he understood, like, it was exciting to get to wrestle The Undertaker at WrestleMania, he wanted to be in the main event. And when he found out that at WrestleMania 30, he was not penciled in to be in the main event. In fact, at that point, when he left, the main event for WrestleMania 30 was Batista versus Randy Orton. And he was penciled in to fight Triple H. CM Punk versus Triple H is a huge WrestleMania match. Huge, especially at that point. It ain't the main event. It's a one-night show at WrestleMania 30. CM Punk made it clear a year ago. One of the reasons he was back in the WWE was to main event WrestleMania. More recently, coming off of Survivor Series, CM Punk has pointed at the area where the sign will be. Before there even is a WrestleMania sign, CM Punk has pointed at it. CM Punk has said that his favor that he is getting from Paul Heyman is somehow related to him finding a path to get to the main event of WrestleMania. He said before the Seth Rollins thing really got cooking that he didn't have time for Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins wasn't his issue because he's trying to get to where? WrestleMania. The undertone of CM Punk's entire story right now is that he wants to main event WrestleMania. So you'd have to go, well, CM Punk's got a main event one of the nights of WrestleMania, right? But I mean, think about who's in the conversation for the main event of WrestleMania. Obviously CM Punk. But then you've got The Rock. You've got John Cena. You got Cody Rhodes. You got Roman Reigns. You got Gunther. Not to mention, you've got every member of Solo's bloodline. The names have been thrown around. You have Drew McIntyre. You have Seth Rollins. People like Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. You have Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch that people are still speculating on when they're going to come back. There are so many names right now that all fit in to the main event of WrestleMania picture. I feel like for the next month, up until the Royal Rumble, fantasy booking for WrestleMania is going to change week to week. And I absolutely adore that is where we're at. Because it's like, okay, are you telling me that, because as you put these matches together, you're not going to have a whole bunch of multi-person matches. Most of the names that I just read, CM Punk, The Rock, Cody Rhodes, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Gunther, even in those 6, not all of them are going to main event WrestleMania this year. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, Finn Balor. You got so many names. Kevin Owens. What happens if Kevin Owens were to beat Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble? You going to tell me that Kevin Owens defending the WWE Championship? Okay, what about this, okay? Hear me out. What if Cody Rhodes loses to Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble? Cody Rhodes goes off to Raw. Cody Rhodes fights. Maybe Cody Rhodes starts chasing Gunther on Raw. Maybe Cody Rhodes wins the Elimination Chamber. Maybe John Cena wins the Royal Rumble. Now you've got Cody Rhodes versus Gunther on Raw. You've got John Cena and Kevin Owens on SmackDown. John Cena and Kevin Owens returning to that rivalry that was Kevin Owens' first rivalry on the main roster of the WWE. It's not going to main event. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther, it's not going to main event, because if you have those, then you can do Roman Reigns versus The Rock. You could do Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Is that going to main event over the other matches I just mentioned? And what happens with the other people that I just mentioned on the list? There are so many directions to go in. It's nuts right now. But I think as we get into the new year and we get into these email segments, we're going to have a lot of discussions as to where these matches at WrestleMania are going to go. But before we look forward, I want to look back at 2024. A lot of people are doing full-on award shows, not here at Notsam Wrestling. I do feel like we need to honor 2 superstars. I want to honor the male wrestler of the year, and I want to honor the female wrestler of the year. We're not doing any other awards. We're at breakout, tag team, storyline, all of the rest is filler. Okay? Let's figure out who the wrestlers of the year are. So let's go 2024 male superstar of the year. And when you're looking at this list, it's a tough one to pinpoint who should get it. Okay? Cody Rhodes, talking about the first part of the year, winning the Royal Rumble. Having to tell a story where he lost the main event to WrestleMania only to get it back with fan support. Main evented night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. Was the man to carry the WWE Championship out of Roman Reigns' 3.5-year title reign, which is a near impossible task for anybody. Has great matches with AJ Styles, with Logan Paul. Is in this intense rivalry with Kevin Owens. Has Randy Orton staring at his title for half the year. Although they're friends, we see it cooking. is teaming with Roman Reigns at one point, has this rivalry with Solo Sikoa. I mean, Cody Rhodes' year, there was so much cooking going on with Cody Rhodes this year, but he's just a name on the list. CM Punk, obviously, is a name that you have to bring up. For CM Punk to go from, by the end of last year, people were still saying, how long is CM Punk even going to last? How long before CM Punk blows this whole thing up? How long before CM Punk is toxic and ends this? That was last year. Going into this, oh, he got injured in the Rumble. Oh, he's injury prone. This is what the screams from the haters. Only to tell one of the most compelling stories all year, to have a match by the time you get to October that is on everybody's match of the year top 3 list, if not number 1. And going into a rivalry with Seth Rollins and a potential main event of WrestleMania, fighting in a War Games match with the Bloodline, CM Punk's year has been unreal. I mean, you can go to Will Ospreay. You can go to Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson, as far as I'm concerned, in AEW. Both of them standouts. Of course, Roman Reigns. But what year is not Roman Reigns' year? To have that beginning of the year, to go away, to come back at SummerSlam triumphant, to start to slowly tell the story of having to take power back from Solo Sikoa. You get Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins. Definitely, if I were giving out more awards, the most underrated superstar of the year, for sure. For Seth Rollins to have to make room for himself, everything got screwed up for Seth. They said in the doc he was supposed to have his match with CM Punk at WrestleMania. And now it's like, your job is to find a spot for yourself, to somehow, in a story that involves Roman Reigns, The Rock, Cody Rhodes, you need to get in there, get yourself some spotlight, and not look like an idiot. And that may sound simple, but it ain't. And Seth Rollins pulled it off with absolutely flying colors. He was the MVP of WrestleMania, main eventing night 1, losing his title at the beginning of night 2, coming out and delivering one of the most poetic finishes to a WrestleMania main event we've ever seen in night 2, only to come back, give Damian Priest a little something, leave again, come back, make Bronson Reed a bigger star, and now to sit there and have to go toe-to-toe with CM Punk, who's one of the most beloved superstars of all time. Seth Rollins' year has been amazing, but for me, the wrestler of the year, bar none, is Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is my male superstar of the year. And the reason is, nobody did it from every direction like Drew McIntyre did it. You talk about the task that Seth Rollins had in front of him. How about this? Drew McIntyre, you are going to WrestleMania to face Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. And while Seth is involved in this Roman Reigns, Rock, Bloodline, Cody Rhodes story, it's your job to remind people that there's another story they should be paying attention to. It's your job to make it seem like Seth versus Drew is the biggest match of all. He goes, he injures CM Punk, delivers the promo of a lifetime. I prayed for this. I want you to know I prayed for this. And it happened. When Drew McIntyre said, I prayed for this and it happened, okay? There were so many people that had so many different ideas for what is going to happen with CM Punk in the WWE. Seth Rollins over here, Cody Rhodes over there, Roman Reigns over there. Drew leapt to the top of the list. And not the top of the list in, okay, this is what we're going with. The top of the list in, this is what fans want to see. And that is when you know you're doing work. Drew McIntyre then goes on this run. He becomes a social media disaster artist. I mean, an absolute savage across Twitter, to the point where he's at WrestleMania live tweeting from his wife's phone in the front row. Wins the title. An injured CM Punk takes him out. He immediately loses the title. He then, because of interference, loses the number one contendership match. He then finally gets a shot at Clash at the Castle. CM Punk screws him out. He loses that. He then goes to Money in the Bank. He wins the briefcase. He cashes it in. Loses that. Drew McIntyre, inside of only a few months, survived a 5-minute title reign that ended and began at WrestleMania. Losing the number one contendership the night after WrestleMania. Losing in his home continent at Clash at the Castle. A failed Money in the Bank cash-in. And having a rivalry and keeping it interesting with a guy who couldn't wrestle for April, May, June, July, August, 4 months. And it was even before WrestleMania, but it's 4 months. Keeping a rivalry going with words for 4 months before we could even have the match. And getting 3 matches out of it and having us not roll our eyes. Drew McIntyre was able to create a blood feud over a friendship bracelet. Okay? Who's done that? And then, after all of that, Drew McIntyre loses. He loses the war to CM Punk. Drew McIntyre beat CM Punk at SummerSlam, so he gets the victory in CM Punk's first singles match on WWE television in 10 years. That's an award into and of itself. But then he loses the Four Corners match, and then he loses the Hell in a Cell match. And the Hell in a Cell match is just a straight up, you lost, that's it. There's nothing to talk about anymore. And what does he do? He disappears and comes back to end the year as this bloodline hunter. And even without CM Punk is just as compelling as he's ever been. It's one thing to be paired with one of the most interesting professional wrestlers in the last 20 years, which is CM Punk. People love talking about CM Punk. People love paying attention to CM Punk. People love, we had a This Week in CM Punk segment. He's an interesting guy to follow. The fact that Drew McIntyre can bounce off of it after losing and not only keep attention on him, but level up and now be up here. Drew McIntyre is entering 2025 a much bigger star than he was in 2024. And what did he do? He was the victim of a cash-in. He lost his own cash-in. He lost in his hometown. He lost the war to CM Punk. And nobody cares. Why is that? How can he be better after all of that? Because he's the wrestler of the year. Because he knows how to do this. And he has ascended. Drew McIntyre, talk about the chosen one. He's working at a level that we have not seen him work at ever. I think he's higher up now than he was as a babyface in 2020 at the Rumble. And he's only getting bigger and better. It's insane. You give that guy an inch and he's taking a mile. All right, Drew, you want to do this? You could try this over here. And now you're on this path you didn't even know you'd be on. Nobody's had a year like Drew McIntyre. Nobody. And that's why I can't accept any arguments here either. 2024 male superstar of the year is Drew McIntyre. Now, when you talk about the women, let's talk about this. As 2024 comes to an end, who is the female superstar of the year? And there are a lot of options for female superstar of the year as well. Of course, it got interesting, and this can be very difficult for people, right? No Charlotte Flair. Becky Lynch is done, within the first half of the year. It's like without these big stars to work with, it becomes very, very difficult. But a lot of people made it work. On both sides of the table, Toni Storm is a layup, definitely one that people could consider female superstar of the year. Rhea Ripley, easy female superstar of the year. You talk about somebody who has ascended, somebody who has blown their spotlight up. Rhea Ripley now is that person who, regardless of male or female, is one of the biggest superstars in the WWE. But to me, I think that that's where she started this year. And to be fair to Rhea, she was out. She was out for a long stretch with an injury and then a short stretch with the orbital thing. But she was after she was taken out of action when momentum was at an all-time high for her, coming right off of beating Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. But it is what it is. And what it leaves us with is, to me, Rhea Ripley not being female superstar of the year. Maybe somebody from NXT you could talk about. I mean, the roster on NXT has had a sick year. But there's no way to me that anybody is female wrestler of the year except for Liv Morgan. And I'll tell you why. Liv Morgan has always had support from fans. People have always wanted to see Liv Morgan succeed. And that group of people who want to see her succeed has only grown and only grown and only grown. But it's one thing to be that underdog that everybody wants to see succeed. It's another thing to be WWE's female representative on Netflix's Christmas Day NFL football game. It's another thing to be able to look face to face with Rhea Ripley and realize Rhea Ripley's not making you anymore. We are the two big stars, not one big star and the next big thing, the two big stars. And that wasn't the case at the very beginning of the year. Liv Morgan came back, and she comes back in the Royal Rumble, and everybody's excited to see her. And there's that great shot of Liv outside the ring. And those four, I don't know, who were the four? I think it was Bianca, Jade, Liv. Was it Bayley? No, Bayley won. Whoever the fourth one was. But needless to say, it was, a top four that were sitting outside the ring. And nobody really knew where Liv Morgan fit in. And she came and she did an interview on the bump after the Royal Rumble. And she started talking about the Liv Morgan revenge tour. And you're like, okay, I guess she's trying to get revenge, but wasn't really being acknowledged. It wasn't something that was being set up for WrestleMania. It wasn't, the Rhea Ripley Liv Morgan match wasn't happening then. So it was almost like, oh, okay, is this something that what's it going to be, a backlash match? And maybe it was supposed to be a backlash match. But Liv Morgan has an altercation with Rhea Ripley, and it ends up legit injuring Rhea Ripley. And for a lot of people, it's the worst thing that could happen. Because Liv Morgan is just being set up to be involved in a rivalry with the top superstar in the female division, and the top superstar goes down. So for a lot of people, that ends up being, well, if I don't have that person to kind of keep me up on the level that she's at, how do I stay up there? And Liv Morgan kind of had to do it herself. Liv Morgan became the blueprint for breadcrumb storytelling. This whole, I was obsessed, people were obsessed. First, we see Dominic and Liv leaving a dressing room while a promo is going on Raw. Then Liv and Finn Balor get out of the same car, and all this stuff is going on. And you can't believe it. But I mean, it builds and builds and builds to the point where Dominic is accidentally interfering in her match with Becky Lynch, and she's able to beat Becky Lynch for the women's championship. And Dominic goes, oh, no, I was trying to do something for Rhea Ripley, and, we don't like Liv Morgan. And everybody's like, oh, okay, is this where they're going? Because keep in mind, and this is hard to believe, but there were a lot of people who were like, and I don't even remember, I might have been one of them, that were like, you can't separate Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. The Rhea Ripley-Dominic Mysterio thing is too good. You cannot separate them. What do they do? I mean, Dominic's got a turn. Maybe Dominic and Rhea are going to be baby faces, but you can't have Dominic and Rhea not be together. It's not going to work. And guess what? Not only did it work, it worked with flying colors to the point where those people, as well as many, many more people, are saying, please never break up Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. When that moment happens, when that payoff happens at SummerSlam and Dominic interferes, and then he plants one on Liv Morgan, and we realize it's official. And Liv Morgan has taken the women's championship, and Liv Morgan has taken the Judgment Day, and Liv Morgan has taken Dominic Mysterio. You go, oh my God. But that was only SummerSlam. That was July. It was July. And Liv Morgan has still been the tippity top female on the roster leading up to then and since then. to the point where it's like you could have just had, and I'm sure that it was at least a thought early on, maybe the plan will be as soon as Rhea Ripley comes back, she'll just beat Liv Morgan and get the title back, and, Bob's your uncle. Story's done. But it's like, no, Liv's too good. Liv's too big. Liv has grown too much. She's a massive star now in that women's division. And so you get to the end of the year, and Liv Morgan is as big a star as Rhea Ripley. And to me, that level of growth and the fact that she was able to pull off a story that was being told in a way that really wasn't getting done a lot. This breadcrumb storytelling where little things were happening in the background and people have to pay attention to everything and eventually it pays off. That's a newer thing. It's something we've wanted for a long time, but who's to say if it'll actually work or not? And Liv made it work. And now people are interested in what comes next. Liv Morgan, even if she loses to Rhea Ripley on Raw, she's going to be bigger for it. And if she doesn't, and that's the other thing, you could see her not. There are plenty of people that are saying, well, Rhea doesn't need the title, and I'm not ready to see Liv Morgan lose it. I want to see what happens next for Liv Morgan as champion. The fact that people are saying that kind of shows you the growth that this performer has had. This is why, for me, it's 100%. Not even an argument to be had. Liv Morgan is the female wrestler of the year. That's it. That's it. We don't have to have any more discussion. AEW had a big pay-per-view over the weekend. Worlds End, a couple of three. Yeah, three, because they did the semifinals as well. Amazing Continental Classic matches. And a lot of the Continental Classic matches on television have been really, really good. But to have Ospreay versus Fletcher, and Ospreay gets his win back in that open that goes the distance, and he's all bloody and he's beaten up, but he knows he's got another match. Then Okada beats Ricochet, and we get it. We get Ospreay versus Okada in this match, and Okada is able to beat Ospreay. And by the way, I mean, anybody that makes a list of the best matches of the year, I would imagine coming in on whatever it was, the 28th of December, Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher, Continental Classic, and Will Ospreay versus Okada have every right to be on both of those matches from this pay-per-view. Have every right to be on everybody's list. I wasn't surprised that Okada won. His whole thing is that he's the best tournament wrestler in the world. But man, if I never see Will Ospreay lose again, I think I'll be happy. I look at Will Ospreay and I go, that is the guy that could be AEW's Hogan. Just the ultra babyface that everyone loves, and he doesn't lose, and he's the champion. Like, why wouldn't you just do that? Maybe that's what they're gonna do. Maybe they're just getting there eventually. But yeah, I think he's great. But the matches were great. Kenny Omega comes out at the end and presents Okada with the championship, which is, I'm sure, one of the reasons why Will Ospreay lost, because they were making reference. They were looking at the All In Texas banner. So I'm assuming that the match they want to do a slow build for over the first 6 months or so of 2025 is Kenny Omega versus Okada at that All In show, which makes sense. There were a lot of really great matches. Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander had an unbelievable match. These Mercedes matches have been, almost all of them have been classics. They're so good, and this one was probably the best one yet. And the fact that she's still having her best match since she's been in AEW is awesome. But yeah, excellent match. Very fun end with rated FTR coming in. Mox through all kinds of cheating and chicanery. And I was worried. I was like, there's got to be a run-in, because the end of World's End last year kind of just left everybody deflated. And if World's End had just ended with the Death Riders beating everybody through cheating and just leaving, it'd be like, ugh. But then rated FTR comes out. It's FTR and Adam Copeland, who is also making his return to AEW. And immediately I'm like, look, Cope versus Mox is a match that I would pay to see. I love the idea of that being a world title feud. I think it makes sense. Copeland's the one that did that rah, rah, rah AEW speech a few months back before he was injured. I just think that he's a perfect guy who's an established kind of veteran of the industry to be like, yeah, I'll cheerlead for you guys. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And I think AEW needs that. So the idea that he's kind of leading the charge against this, we're going to change AEW, but we haven't really defined how, group, I like it. I like it. I wouldn't mind. I mean, screw it. Put the title on him. I wouldn't mind Edge, Adam Copeland having another world title run. And then this Ricochet thing, people feel a lot of ways about it. I think it's great. Ricochet gets toilet papered after his match with Okada. Swerve comes out and says, I said I was going to embarrass you. And Nana hands out toilet paper to the fans, and Ricochet is standing in the ring, not moving because he's so angry. And then they TP him. Look, people can say whatever they want. Where's this going? But like the fact that the internet kind of turned on Ricochet and Ricochet decided to lean all the way into it and bring that energy onto television is exactly what you should be doing with social media. I think it's great. It's a new side of him, and I think it's super fun. So good show. Check it out. A lot of fun. It's going to be a fun week, man. We got Netflix, Raw, a week from today if you're watching it the first day, but we're less than a week away now, I would imagine. Or a week, depending on when you're listening to this, from Raw coming to Netflix. This Friday, SmackDown goes 3 hours. I'm assuming that we'll have plenty of time before Netflix Raw to talk about it. I would imagine too, when they said that the transfer window was open as far as the draft goes, I think a lot of us thought like, okay, this will give a good reason to get guys over onto Netflix Raw and to put the best presentation you can there. But the fact that SmackDown's going 3 hours and it's now going to be the only WWE show on the USA Network, I think a lot of energy is going to have to be put into SmackDown. And, I could see a lot happening over there. I think groups like The Final Testament would do well on SmackDown because they'll have a little more time to explore story. I mean, if they brought over The Final Testament to SmackDown and Cody Rhodes beats Kevin Owens, let's say he does, and The Miz goes with The Final Testament, I'm just saying, a couple months from now, the idea of The Miz versus Cody Rhodes, you might scoff at it, but if you're telling me that The Miz and Cody could not convince you that this is an amazing story, then you don't know The Miz and Cody. You don't watch the product. And you got to watch the product. There's a lot that could happen. I mean, we'll talk about it all. This week, it's the last Raw in USA. Maybe we'll have a bonus pod for that because that's a big deal. That's a big deal. There's going to be a lot of content this week, though, here on Notsam Wrestling. Not only could we have that, but we will have an interview podcast going up this week. Either on Wednesday or Thursday, we'll have a guest here in the Not Sam studio that you guys are going to absolutely love. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you're subscribed to all the audio feeds out there, whether it's Spotify, Apple, SiriusXM app, however you listen to podcasts, make sure you're subscribed there. And make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel where you can watch every podcast in full, youtube.com/NotSamWrestling. But I got to find out what's on your mind. You know what's on my mind now. So let me find out what's on your mind. Hope you guys had a happy holiday, by the way. Email in, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. It's the name of the show, Not Sam Wrestling. Then the @sign, and then you write gmail.com. And then you write an email, you send it, I'll get it. Maybe I'll read it on the show. Who knows? Who's to say? All right, let's go to Jason. Jason writes in, hi, Sam. I acknowledge you as my podcast tribal chief. And humbly bring before you an idea that has been in my mind since Cody's victory at WrestleMania. Okay, I wish to receive your invaluable input into this thought, and with a grateful heart, accept your final verdict. All right, look, this is something that you've been thinking about since April. You're asking me now to analyze it. It's a long time. That's 8 months. Imagine if I destroy this idea after it's been cooking in your head for 8 months. That could be tough. But let's read it. The historic reign of Roman Reigns is tied directly to the Universal Championship. Therefore, the lineage continues even though it's unified with the WWE Championship. Okay, my thought is with WWE programming spread out among CW, Netflix, and USA with occasional programming on NBC, what if the Universal Championship was broken off on its own again to become the top world title of SmackDown or Raw? If the World Heavyweight Championship moves over, each brand would then have its major world title, and the Universal Championship that Roman Reigns made relevant would be active and visible among the WWE universe. With the brand split still enforced, each brand having its own world title, the WWE Championship would become the top title above all brands, much like the NWA did during the territory days. The WWE Champion can hop between shows and build important storylines across all brands to help drive ratings across all networks. What say you, my podcast tribal chief? I think your heart's in the right place. I totally get what you're saying, and historically, I understand. The problem is that when you had your top champions that were regional champions, right? Like the, whatever, Mid-Atlantic champ, whatever they were, the regional champions of the time, you didn't see the world champion. And the reason those regional championships maintain their prestige is because you didn't see the world champion. There was no cable television yet. So you were watching this territory, and eventually the world champion would arrive, but you weren't watching the world champion defend his title regularly. You weren't week in and week out seeing what the world champion was doing. And if you were seeing that world champion defend their title regularly, if you were seeing what they were doing week in and week out, then all of a sudden the top title in your specific territory would be looked at as a secondary championship. So if you have the Universal Championship back, you've now got the World Heavyweight Championship and the Universal Championship, you're saying, on Raw or SmackDown, whatever. And then the WWE Championship. So the Universal Championship is going to be the one that starts with Finn Balor. And that's going to go over to, let's say, SmackDown, because the World Heavyweight Champion is on Raw. And then you take the WWE Championship with all the lineage and you make it the title above all. Well, I mean, you've now... The problem with the World Heavyweight Championship is people looked at it and they said, well, that's a second place title. And even though it was on a separate brand and Roman was on a separate brand and you were keeping them on two separate shows, we all watch both shows. So it doesn't matter if it's separate or not. One is going to have importance because you see it all the time. Which means that you may now, if you keep that sort of thinking, you may now push the World Heavyweight title down to third place, and you have to work even harder to get it over. The problem with your idea is that it takes the two world champions and makes them secondary titles, which then would take the United States Championship and Intercontinental Championship, push them down to third place on any given brand that they're on. And then you've got the women's, and then what are you going to do? A women's WWE Championship and a women's Universal, and it's too many titles. You don't need more championships. If I would say, as a rule of thumb, if your idea at this point, now that we've officially got a secondary women's championship on all three brands, we've got a women's tag team championship. Beyond this, if your idea is another championship, it's a flawed idea. I understand your logic. Too many championships. Let's go to Mark. Mark writes in, Sam, my PTC wise man on all things wrestling and original shill. I love you, Sam. I wasn't going to play it again, but he said it. You solo! First, I hope you and your tribe had a wonderful Christmas and have a great New Year. I mean, it was the best. Second, I've been following your show since just before episode 500, and I'd like to thank you for sharing your insights and your patience with my crazy ideas. I look forward to watching every Monday. Work being slow over the holidays, I have some speculation for you. Roman beats Solo, and The Rock reveals himself as the High Chief. Okay, that's literally my speculation that I gave to you. Final four at the Rumble are CM Punk, Roman, Drew, and Seth. Okay. Finally, Hikuleo and Lance Anoa'i are brought to NXT as muscle for Ava. who feels like she's losing some respect from the male locker room. Oh, these are just things that could happen. They're not linked in any way. Okay, I mean, if you want to start a bloodline in NXT, I guess that's a way you could do it. Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you. Lupe writes in, my podcast Tribal Chief, I bring you disturbing news. Someone texted me an unconfirmed possible leak for the Rumble, which contains entrance and winner. Dude, my podcast, don't believe you shouldn't even be friends with that person who texted it to you. It's a lie. It's not true. I know we don't speak spoilers here, and I will not release any here due to the fact that I have respect for your show, and I love you, my podcast Tribal Chief. You don't have to worry about that. You didn't get a scoop. I'm sorry to tell you. You didn't get a scoop. I will say that the entrance order looked very plausible. I mean, they've been teasing Penta, and he's not in the Rumble. They've been teasing him. At least that's how I interpret the teases, and he's not in the Rumble. Okay, sure. My question for you, let's say hypothetically this list is legit. It's not. If you were WWE, what would you do knowing it was leaked? I don't know. I'd probably change it, but it's not real. Avik writes in, hi, Sam, what's the haps from London? If Kevin wins at Rumble, how would you factor Cody into Mania? Straight up one-on-one with Rock or Randy? Could do that. That is where the People's Championship could come into play. Cody could beat The Rock for the People's Championship. Write that down. David writes in, hello, my OPTC. Every time you play that Jacob Fatu clip, I laugh uncontrollably at work. Good. I never thought I'd be that guy randomly laughing at podcasts, but alas, here I am. I do a lot of strange things to people. I'm writing about my feelings this past week on Raw. I thought Natalya was 100% going to win the tournament to become the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion. When she lost, it hit me extremely hard. She is the boat. I felt in my wrestling heart of hearts, pun intended, that it was her time to get those flowers and represent that title to cement her legacy. It would have made perfect sense for her to win it, don't you think? I don't think it would have not made sense for her to win it, unless the idea is to put it on, somebody who is not already, who doesn't already have the credibility of being the boat. And by the way, like, the title, just because you don't win the tournament doesn't mean you don't win the title ever. Like, the title becomes part of lore. It's almost like, what if somebody new, like Chelsea Green, somebody who hasn't experienced gold, somebody that's not in the world title picture right now as far as the women go, but somebody who, has all this fan support, is new, and it's like, yeah, we can make her a bigger star here. Boom. Put it on Chelsea Green. That's why I'm looking at from the beginning, like Lyra Valkyria. But what if you have Natalya turn heel and beat Lyra for the title? What if a heel beats Lyra for the title and Natalya beats that heel? And then Lyra has to beat Natalya for the title. There's a million stories you could still tell with Natalya, and the fact that there is a secondary championship in play is, that's the strength of it. That you don't give up hope now. The fact is that coming off this tournament, there will be a secondary title in play. So now we can exist in this world where it's like Mi Chin can have championship matches and maybe win the title, right? Chelsea Green, championship matches, maybe win the title. Natalya, championship matches, maybe win the title. Tommy writes in, I acknowledge you, my podcast Tribal Chief. The product we're watching in WWE is just fantastic. My 13-year-old daughter, Carrington, became the biggest wrestling fan in Cody's run last year. This is what I'm talking about with Cody. We want these 13-year-old people to be fans. We don't need a Homelander arc right now. She's been glued to every show since going to WrestleMania 40. Oh, and she got to go to that? That's amazing. She has since become the biggest fan of Rhea Ripley in the process. I love to hear all this. Question, do you think we will get back to the Rhea J love fling story? It kind of just dropped suddenly. I know she's had some unfortunate injuries, but she's back in the bloodline story. Maybe they're money together. Okay, so listen. I have said this before. I think that we are dealing within wrestling. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. Relationships are complex. There was never a love fling story between Jay and Rhea. There was a flirtatious work wife, work husband thing going on with Jay and Rhea. Where you see your coworker, you know that they're the person, you're always happy to see each other, you got your little inside jokes, but you leave it at work. You never cross the line. You know what I mean? It's just your little flirtatious work thing. At the Christmas party, you laugh because you both know it's never going to happen. And you move on, right? And you just keep it moving, and it's just a fun thing. Flirtatious male-female relationship. That's all it is. And that's all. And I don't think it's done, but I don't think it's a love story, if that's what you're asking. I don't think it ever was. Then he writes in, Big E wore the same colors as the New Day during the heel turn segment with Kofi and Woods. There was no physical contact between them. Everything counts. What if Big E pulls a shade of Hogan 96 where the New Day is beating down some babyface, and then Big E comes out and looks to save the day, but only to assist the New Day? I mean, look, if Big E's going to be able to return to the ring, there's a million things we could do. But I don't think that would work, because I think that Big E is too beloved. I don't. I mean, you could say that with the New Day and everything, but like coming back from an injury, I don't think Big E ends up in a scenario where he's a bad guy. Melissa. Oh, okay. I'm going to tell you. I was about to kill this email because it's a long one, but it's our friend Melissa. We've been on a 3-week arc in the email segment. This is why you got to listen every week about the French Revolution. And we're here from Melissa again. Okay, there's Melissa here again. Okay. Thank you for your witty and thoughtful response to my email on the December 23rd podcast. Yes, it absolutely made my Christmas. That's fantastic. I'm a union rep for a living, so normally when I tell someone we need to talk, they bleep their pants. But not you, Sam. No. The PTC stuck his 10 toes in the earth and locked horns with me. This is why I acknowledge you. We stand on business here at Notsam Wrestling, okay? My wife yelled at me because my daughter, who's 5, the other day, I'm like, hey, you got to eat your dinner. And she stood up on the couch and she went, Dad. And I went, yeah. And she was like, and it was my initial reaction. I don't know why it happened. And she was like, she looked at me even at 5 and she was like, why do you look happy? And I go, because I love this. I love you standing up for yourself. I love conflict. I love all this. My wife's like, you got to stop doing that. She's going to become a monster. I go, no, it's great. It's great. I don't know what it is. I love conflict. I have meditated on your response. This is, of course, the conversation about me realizing that the bloodline was actually something that could be directly equated to the French Revolution, and that we're seeing like it's one and the same. It's the same story. And Melissa has studied the French Revolution. She said, I don't think so. I don't see it. And I broke it down for her in the email segment the way I saw it. So I'm interested to hear what she says. I've meditated on your response for several days, and I agree, with your French Revolution theory. We are indeed in the reign of terror. Yes. Thank you for enlightening me. Yes. I also agree that there's a Napoleon coming in this story. Okay. But to figure out who it is, we must look at the history. During this time, Napoleon was a military captain, right, who was on the come-up, right. Still a few years from taking power in 1799, right. We're in the period where he rises in the military, goes on famous campaigns, scores impressive victories, all of which he uses to springboard into political power via a bloodless coup. That's right. Right now, Napoleon is in the picture, Sam. He's just not in the main event yet. I love this. Okay, yes. So, for us to identify WWE's Napoleon, we must find a superstar who is going on big campaigns to much fanfare before taking the throne via a coup or dastardly deed. I heard your theories of who, and Sam, I believe you are wrong about CM Punk. Whoa, because CM Punk is running all these missions successfully, is working politically with Paul Heyman, and is working his way up to power where he may not even have to beat anybody in the bloodline to get it. Remember that, or anybody in the anti-bloodline group. Remember that Punk is not allied with the old guard. He's in business for himself in this story, okay? Now, Kevin and Drew's actions make them counter-revolutionaries, who grab for power during the instability. They're fighting without politicking, but there is someone who is politicking and getting into big feuds, someone who commands great popular power and utilizes trickery, and that's CM Punk. Oh, maybe I said CM Punk wasn't Napoleon. That's CM Punk. He's got some beefs to squash before he can challenge for the title, and we know these matches are going to be co-main events without a title being on the line. I believe his deal with Heyman could very well turn out to be his coup. Oh, that brings him to the WWE Universal title picture. Sam, hit me with your thoughts. Taking the history into consideration, do you now see the light on this, or do you have a stronger case for it to be someone else? I look forward to your response. Perhaps one day I can debate you during a Q&A at a fan event in NYC. Thanks again. All the best, and Happy New Year to you and your family. Okay, I love the idea of CM Punk being Napoleon. Right, because, somebody would make a case for Drew McIntyre to be a Napoleon, but Drew McIntyre is a revolutionary that is taking down the bloodline. CM Punk is the one weaving. CM Punk is the one who's friends with everybody, but also not friends with everybody. CM Punk is the one who, when, Los Garza and everybody who's not aligned with anybody, when Los Garza are sitting there going like, it's just craziness going on. I need some stability here. Who is going to lead us? We got the bloodline out of power, but the people taking the bloodline out of power are crazy. That's why we're in the reign of terror. Who is going to lead us? We're just Los Garza. We're just trying to live our lives. And then CM Punk is going to say, let me be the one. I've done this successfully. I've worked with the bloodline. I've worked against the bloodline. We can bring the knowledge of Paul Heyman onto our side. We can get out of all this mess. Okay. If anybody else knows about the French Revolution, has any other thoughts on Napoleon, but you sold me, Melissa. I like the idea of CM Punk being Napoleon, and I wouldn't have thought, because CM Punk comes in with so much credibility. He's not this kind of guy that came out of nowhere to be like, no, I'm going to take charge, but he does fit all the other aspects. So I'm riding with you. I'm riding with you on this, Melissa. This is great. I love what we're doing here. We're working. This is why confrontation is good, because when you can get it to a place where you're not being emotional, you can confront, you can argue, you can get to a place where you both see each other's spot, and you can come to the resolution. That's why we don't live in the reign of terror. Let's see. Kevin, is that Kevin? Kevin writes in, what about Nia retains her WWE Women's Championship until the Royal Rumble, where she defeats Bianca Belair before the Women's Rumble match. Tiffany cashes in, wins the title, but she's already in the Rumble, and she enters late, wearing the title to the ring, ends up in the Final Four. Have Corey and Michael Cole put it over. Like, if she wins, she can choose her opponent at WrestleMania, then have her out at fourth from last. Rumble main gets the belt off Nia. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I really don't know what you're talking about. And maybe it's because I'm all swept up in how great this French Revolution stuff is. I apologize. Probably just not the right time. But yeah. Okay, this is a fantasy booking for WWE versus AEW. I've done that before. Let's go to John. First, I acknowledge you as the one true OPTC. Thank you. Just writing a quick note to say that my Feelings hoodie came and is awesome. My first Not Sam merch. Just hoping my wife doesn't try it on or I'll never get it back. Oh, it's great. It's great. The quality's right up there. The margins are very slim. Our next merch drop will be just as good. Make sure you're involved. Let's see. Jack from Michigan writes in, I hope you and your fam had a great Christmas. It was the best. I wanted to share my excitement about attending the holiday tour. Okay. On Monday, the day the show will be out, my brothers and myself will be at the WWE Holiday Tour in Detroit, my third show of all time, which have all been this year. SmackDown after Mania, fun. Raw before CM Punk screwed Drew versus Priest, and now the Holiday Tour. It'll be my brother's first ever show. They were jumping for joy on Christmas. P.S. We will be wearing matching Jey Uso shirts. Love you and the podcast. Yeah. It's going to be a great time. The Holiday Tour is always the best. And now that a lot of those house shows aren't happening as much anymore, they're even more fun. Bobby writes in, thoughts on Kevin Owens' Winged Eagle title becoming the hardcore title? I know Triple H gave one to Travis Scott, so maybe there was a hint at it? No. Also, wasn't the OG hardcore title Winged Eagle taped up? It could be a good replacement. No, what are you talking about, dude? Last email, okay? Because I'm getting cranky and I don't want to. Greg writes in, greetings to the original podcast tribal chief. I acknowledge you. It's a not so well kept secret that Kevin Owens has wanted a match with Shawn Michaels. Should Shawn Michaels ever step back in the ring? With Triple H and Shawn both getting physical with Kevin Owens and Eddie Thorpe respectively in the same week, could we be setting up a tag match? I don't think so. I just think with Triple H's health issues that he went through at one point, I think, who's to say, but it doesn't seem like he's ever coming back. Okay. Guys, appreciate you all. Let's make 2025 the best year yet for all of us as individuals and for Notsam Wrestling as a show. Make sure you're subscribed across all audio and video. We will have bonus content out this week. And man, are we gearing up for a fun time. We'll be here to document all of it. Oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. We'll see you then. Have a good one, everybody.